Hi, this is Becky Nunn, and I'd love to show you how you can rubber stamp on epoxy clay and put UV resin over the top of it to create fun pendants like you see here. What you'll need for this video is some 2-part epoxy clay, and I've already followed the manufacturer's instructions and mixed my clay until it is no longer marbled. You'll need a couple of bezels. I'm using the Patera bracelet bezels. I've unlinked them, so I have these separate little links that are great for this project. I have some Stays-On ink. I have some refiller just to make sure that my Stays-On ink is nice and pre-inked. I have a couple stamps, some gel de soleil, and a couple of toothpicks, and a UV lamp. First, you're going to want to pinch off a small bit of your mixed epoxy clay and roll it into a nice smooth ball before placing it down inside of the Patera bracelet bezel. And I want enough just to fill that base with, slightly having it be under. And I'm using my thumb to press the clay right up to that lip of the piece. Nice and smooth and flat. And then with your extra clay, you can fill the other 2 bezels. When working with epoxy clay, I usually always have handy a wet wipe, and this is to wipe off my fingers and to make sure that I'm wiping off any excess clay that could have got onto the sides of the piece. You have 90 to 120 minutes to work with the 2-part epoxy clay before it starts to harden, and at that point it is cement hard, so you want to make sure that you're cleaning it up as you go while it's still nice malleable. Now we're ready to go ahead and rubber stamp right onto the epoxy clay, and I'm using Stays-On ink. And go ahead and open up your stamp pad, and sometimes you might need to do a little bit of refresher with your ink to make sure that you'll have a nice fresh well inked rubber stamp. I'm using this fun fern design, and I really like these on a dowel like this. This is Rubber Stamp Tapestry. We're a distributor of this product, and it allows you to really see very well where your item is going to stamp down onto the clay. I'm going to go ahead and ink up my piece, double checking. Often I'll have like a piece of paper that I'll stamp onto to double check, but I'm pretty sure that's looking pretty well inked. And now I'm ready to go ahead and apply that onto the clay. So I'm not pressing down too hard, I'm just very lightly pressing down into the clay. If I got any on the sides, or if I didn't like how that was, I can wipe away that excess ink that might have showed up. Or altogether, I could pinch that off if I didn't like how that came off, and get, again, a white surface over the top and just keep on applying that rubber stamp on there until I got an image that was just right. On this sample here, I used a black epoxy clay and white Stays-On ink to create a reverse-like effect. Same stamp, just totally different look. We're ready to apply the gel de soleil over the top of our pieces to create that glossy look. Gel de soleil is a UV resin, and it is a single-part resin. Most resins are 2-part where you mix them and then they can take up to 72 hours to cure. Gel de soleil is a single-part resin, and it cures when it's exposed to UV light. The UV light is the catalyst that makes that resin activate and harden. Go ahead and pour a tiny, tiny little drop right onto the surface of your epoxy clay that has been rubber stamped. and with all resins. Under pour, and then you can always add more. UV resin and other resins are doming resins, so it just wants to know where that side edge is, and then it'll stop. So I'm using my toothpick to move around the resin just to show it where the edge is. I like to work on business cards like in this one that I'm working on now, because it's easy to rotate the piece around. I can even take these pieces off. It's easy to rotate the piece around, and also it doesn't have to be picked up or transferred onto another surface when I move it under the UV lamp. I'm moving the resin into all of those corners of the square piece and making sure that I have a nice even look throughout. Now that piece is ready to go into the UV lamp, and I can go ahead and just turn it on once I have it in there. So just picking up the business card, I transfer the whole piece right inside of the UV lamp, and then I can turn it on and the piece will cure in 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, my piece is cured, and I have a great piece that I've rubber stamped with StazOn ink over epoxy clay inside of the patera piece. I can link that together and make a bracelet, or make a pendant, or a pair of earrings. This is Becky Nunn with Nunn Design. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to rubber stamp on epoxy clay and use UV resin over the top.